It was a bright Tuesday morning in the small town of Maple Heights, and yet for David Clark, the sun felt dimmer than usual. The dishes in the sink were piled high. The rent reminder sat unopened on the counter, and the sound of his 7-year-old daughter Lana humming softly as she colored in the living room was the only thing keeping him grounded. Life hadn't been kind to David lately. Ever since the accident took his wife 3 years ago, every day had been a battle between survival and surrender. He worked double shifts at the neighborhood garage, often coming home smelling of grease and exhaustion. Money was tight. His landlord was impatient, and Lana's school fees were overdue again. Still, David never let his little girl see him break. He smiled through the pain, tucked her into bed every night, and whispered the same promise he'd made since her mother passed. "Daddy's not giving up, sweetheart. Not today." But that night, as the rain poured heavily against the windows, fate came knocking, literally. The knocking grew louder, urgent. David wiped his hands on a towel and went to the door, half expecting the landlord. Instead, a young woman stood there soaked to the bone, shivering, clutching a small torn purse. Her eyes wide with fear and fatigue met his. I'm sorry," she stammered. "My car broke down a few miles from here. The tow truck said they can't come until morning. I tried calling a motel, but they're full. I'll go if you can just point me toward town. I didn't mean to bother you." David hesitated. He didn't know her, but there was something in her trembling voice, something that reminded him of the nights he'd felt just as lost. "You'll catch pneumonia if you stay out there," he said finally. "Come in. You can crash on the couch. I'll grab a towel." The woman's name was Rachel Miller. She looked to be in her early 30s with sharp features softened by exhaustion and a quiet politeness that spoke of someone used to fending for herself. David made her tea while Lana, curious as ever, peeked from behind the hallway door. "Daddy, who's that?" she whispered. "A friend who needed a place to rest," he replied gently. Rachel smiled weakly at the child and murmured, "You have a lovely daughter." The night passed quietly. Rachel barely touched the tea, murmured a soft thank you, and fell asleep on the couch, still wearing her damp sweater. David covered her with a blanket and went to bed wondering who she really was and what had brought her to his doorstep. When morning came, the house smelled of coffee and toast. David woke up to find Lana laughing in the kitchen. Rachel was there wearing one of his old hoodies, flipping pancakes with practiced ease. The sight was so unexpectedly warm it caught him off guard. "I hope you don't mind," Rachel said, turning with a shy smile. "You looked exhausted last night. I figured the least I could do was make breakfast." David chuckled softly. "You didn't have to, but thank you. It's been a while since this kitchen smelled like that." They sat together, sharing stories over pancakes and sunlight. Rachel told them she'd been driving cross-country, trying to start over after losing her job and a relationship that had left her in pieces. She didn't say much more, and David didn't press. Sometimes silence carried more truth than words. After breakfast, Rachel stepped outside to make a phone call. David assumed she was arranging for her car to be towed. But when she came back in, there was a strange light in her eyes, a mix of relief and disbelief. "David," she said softly, "thank you for letting me stay. You didn't even know me, yet you opened your home. I'll never forget that." He waved it off. "It's nothing, just doing what anyone decent would do." But Rachel shook her head. "Not everyone would. Most people drive by. You didn't." She gave Lana a warm hug goodbye and then before leaving turned back with one final sentence that lingered in his mind all day. "I think good things are finally coming your way." That afternoon, David went to work as usual. The neighborhood garage was understaffed and the manager had been threatening to cut hours. Bills were looming and even his old pickup truck had started making that dreaded rattling sound again. Around lunchtime, a sleek black sedan pulled up outside. A man in a tailored suit stepped out and asked for David by name. Confused, David wiped the grease from his hands. "Yes, I'm David Clark. Can I help you?" The man smiled. "I represent Global Futures Holding. Miss Rachel Miller asked me to deliver something personally." He handed David a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter and a cashier's check that nearly made David's knees give out. The amount was enough to cover his rent, pay off his debts, and even start a small auto repair shop of his own. The letter read, "David, last night I saw something I haven't seen in a long time. Genuine kindness. You didn't ask who I was. You didn't judge. And you didn't expect anything in return. What you don't know is that I wasn't just a stranded traveler. I was running from a life that had made me forget what decency looked like. You reminded me. I am the acting CEO of Global Futures Holding, and I've been searching for someone trustworthy to manage a new local branch in Maple Heights. I can't think of anyone better. If you're willing, this opportunity and the means to start a new life are yours. Thank you for giving a stranger a place to rest. Sometimes angels wear work boots instead of wings." Rachel David stood there speechless. The men from Global Futures Holding helped him understand that the offer was real. Rachel Miller was not just any traveler. She was one of the country's youngest and most respected entrepreneurs, known for her philanthropy and heart for small-town revitalization. He went home early that day, still in disbelief. When he walked through the door, Lana ran up to him with her usual smile. "Daddy, what's wrong?" He knelt down, tears welling in his eyes. "Nothing, baby. Nothing at all. For the first time in a long time, everything's going to be okay." Within weeks, David's life transformed. The neighborhood garage became his. Rachel's company partnered with him to turn it into a full-fledged auto service center that provided jobs to local mechanics. He hired 2 of his struggling coworkers, started saving again, and even managed to move into a small but beautiful home closer to Lana's school. But the most beautiful moment came months later when Rachel returned to town. She wasn't the same weary traveler he'd met that rainy night. She looked radiant, confident, her eyes soft with gratitude. "I told you good things were coming," she said, standing beside him as the ribbon was cut for Clark Auto Solutions, the sign gleaming in the sunlight. David smiled. "I guess you were right, but it wasn't luck, was it?" "No," she replied, her voice gentle. "It was kindness. You gave it freely, and the world gave it back." That day, the town gathered to celebrate. People who once pitted David now looked up to him, not because of money, but because he'd proven that kindness never goes unnoticed. Later that evening, as the crowd dispersed and the sun dipped low over Maple Heights, Rachel lingered. "You know," she said softly, "I thought I was the one who needed saving that night. Turns out maybe we saved each other." David nodded, looking out toward the glowing sign of his new shop, his daughter laughing in the distance. Maybe that's how the world works. You help one lost soul and life helps you right back. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so more people can see that compassion still changes lives. Every click helps. Spread a little more light in the world. And before you go, we'd love to hear from you. Comment below what kindness means to you and if you've ever had a moment where helping someone changed your life. 2. Because in the end, it's never about how much you have. It's about how much love you give, even when you think you have nothing left. And sometimes that's exactly when miracles find you.